Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Swayam Rupa Kalamastram Vidati Sapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamaram Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Radha Shri Shri Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, do you remember where exactly you were?
Yeah. There was no bookmark. We're in chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Yeah.
Chapter 7.
Yeah. Let me see.
You didn't know that, Gopal? Chapter 7? Mine.
Continue from somewhere where you guys left in Medjugorje Street. So.
Non-Medjugorje Street.
Pitt Street.
No.
26 Academy.
Exactly.
Pitt Street.
Maybe.
We did Pitt Street.
Just some estimate.
Yeah.
It was like in the 70s. It was like 71, 72, something like that. He was reading from.
We have a video?
Well, let's just start saying it.
That's it.
We have the video?
Yeah, actually we just read this.
Should I check that?
Yeah.
Namavinu Kali Kali Nahi Ādi-līlā
Namavinu Kali Kali Nahi Ādi-līlā
Sarva Mantra Saranama E Shastra Marma
Sarvanama Sarvashastra E Sarvanama
Sarva Mantra Saranama E Shastra Marma
Sarva Mantra
Saranama E Shastra Marma. Nama, the holy name. Vinu, without. Kali Kale, in this age of Kali. Nahi, there is none. Ar, or any alternative. Dharma, religious principles. Sarva, all. Mantra, hymns. Sara, essence. Nama, the holy name. A, this is. Shastra, revealed scriptures. Marma, purport. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In this age of Kali, there is no religious principle other than the chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all Vedic hymns. This is the purport of all scriptures. Purport. The principles of the Parampara system were strictly honored in previous ages, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. But in the present age, Kali Yuga, people neglect the importance of this system of Shrauta Parampara, or receiving knowledge by disciplic succession. In this age, people are prepared to argue that they can understand that which is beyond their limited knowledge and perception through so-called scientific observations and experiments, not knowing that actual truth comes down to man from authority. This argumentative attitude is against the Vedic principles, and it is very difficult for one who adopts it to understand that the holy name of Krishna is as good as Krishna himself. Since Krishna and his holy name are identical, the holy name is eternally pure and beyond material contamination. It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a transcendental vibration. The holy name is completely different from material sound as confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur. Golokera Premadan Harinama Ashram. The transcendental vibration of Harinam Sankirtan is imported from the spiritual world. Thus, although materialists who are addicted to experimental knowledge and so-called scientific method cannot place their faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is a fact that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mantra offenselessly, one can be freed from all subtle and gross material conditions. The spiritual world is called Vaikunta, which means without anxiety. in the material world, everything is full of anxiety, kunta, whereas in the spiritual world, vaikunta, everything is free from anxiety. Therefore, those who are afflicted by a combination of anxieties cannot understand the Hare Krishna mantra, which is free from all anxiety. In the present age, the vibration of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only process that is in a transcendental position beyond material contamination. Since the holy name can deliver a conditioned soul, it is explained here to be Sarva Mantra Sara, the essence of all Vedic hymns. A name that represents an object of this material world may be subjected to arguments and experimental knowledge, but in the absolute world, a name and its owner, the fame and the famous, are identical, and similarly the qualities, pastimes, and everything else pertaining to the absolute are also absolute. Although Mayavadis profess monoism, they differentiate between the holy name of the Supreme Lord and the Lord Himself. For this offense of Nama Parada, they gradually glide down from their exalted position of Brahmagyan, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. Aruhya Kritchena Param Padam Tata Patantyado Nadrita Yushmadangrayaha. Although by severe austerities they rise to the exalted position of Brahmagyan, they nevertheless fall down due to imperfect knowledge of the absolute truth. Although they profess to understand the Vedic mantra, Sarva Kalau Idam Brahma, Chandogya Upanishad 3.14.1, which means everything is Brahman, they are unable to understand that the holy name is also Brahman. If they regularly chant the Maha Mantra, however, they can be relieved from this misconception. Unless one properly takes shelter of the holy name, he cannot be relieved from the offensive stage in chanting the holy name. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking with Prakashananda Saraswati, arguing with them. And, or is it Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? Prakashananda, yeah, it's Prakashananda. It's Vedanta Sutra. So, and here the essence of our Krishna conscious philosophy is presented, that in this age of Kali there is no other religious principle than chanting the holy name. And now for many spiritualists, this is like, such a simple process. How can this be considered as the essence of all Vedic texts? It's like, because in the Vedic texts, especially Upanishads, there's so many logical arguments, there's so many philosophical understandings, and then all you need to do is just chant the holy name. Is that the conclusion of everything? It's kind of hard. Now, here it's stated that the importance, going the order of the system, the principles of the parampara system were strictly honored, but in this age of Kali, people neglect the importance of this system. So in Kali Yuga, the tendency of a spirit soul to do it himself, that he thinks he's the doer, which is the reason of why, which is the cause of our conditioning in this material world, is that we think I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Krishna states that in the Bhagavad Gita that what is that? The demons think that Jagadahur and no, that's not the one. Paraspara Sambhutam Kimahanyat Kamahetukam. He says that
the world's
I am enjoyer and
Ishwaroham Aham
Balavan Sukhi. Yeah. Ishwaroham Aham Bohi Siddhoham Balavan Sukhi. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the demons think Ishwaroham, I am the supreme controller. I am Ishvara. I am the Lord of all that I survey. I think if I look at everything, I think I am the enjoyer. I think I am the controller. So Ishvara, Aham Bhogi. I am the enjoyer. And then comes the very important word. Siddhoham. Siddha means perfect. I am perfect. Every single person in this material thinks he's completely perfect. He thinks, what's the problem with himself? I think I'm amazing. I'm such a great guy. I've got it all right. I've got it, and therefore you see all these people. They just like in a very silly. I'm giving a very silly example over here. Like when there's a football match or something like that, you have this constant commentary that goes on in the background. And what do they keep saying? Oh, this football, he could have hit it like that. He could have gone over there. That person didn't do this. He didn't do the defense properly. His offense was a little late. what if you just sit and you're getting paid? And you're sitting there commenting, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are listening to this nonsense. What is that? What is that idea? That, and this we see people even doing. They say there's a car accident. Someone sees a car accident, and then immediately a group of people start talking. Oh, you see the driver, he shouldn't have gone like that. That car, that model, that car, it's known for car accidents. He shouldn't have got it. Or this is what I would have done. Free advice. In Kali Yuga, it's very easy. People will give you a lot of advice. And they won't charge you for that. Because they like to give you advice. And then there's a group of professional advisors also who charge you for giving professional advice. But, so this principle in Kali Yuga is very, very, very prominent. People who have no knowledge of any subject. In India, if you ask directions, you have this experience. They'll never tell you they don't know how to go there. They'll tell you in India, you go little straight, and then you take left, and then you have someone over there. Then why do you tell me? You don't know, that means you don't know, but they won't tell you don't know. And sometimes you meet some person, you're driving, and he says, just keep going. Because the idea is that he should not say that he doesn't know. But, so this nature of this tendency in this material world is that, especially in Kali Yuga, that people think they know everything. And they talk about all sorts of things. They give commentaries on all sorts of subjects, including spirituality and religion. People have all sorts of philosophies. I think you should. Your philosophy is not all inclusive. You're too exclusive. You guys, the Hare Krishnas, you guys think that you're the best. You should be all inclusive. You should include everything. You should think that everyone is good. Or people have their ideas. Where do they get these ideas from? What is the basis of these ideas? Nothing. It's just their own mind. So in Kali Yuga, people they are interested and they're prepared to argue that they can understand that which is beyond their limited knowledge and perception through so-called scientific observations and experiments. So they're prepared to argue about such topics which they don't even know about. It's just like the scientists, they keep debating about how the world was created. How can you debate how the world was created? It happened several billion years ago. How can you figure it out? You can't even figure out how the perfect details of how this building was created, maybe just 10 years ago, if this building is 10 years old. You can't figure out the exact details of how it was created. There'll always be some aspect of the building which you're not aware of. And what to speak of that? We don't even know the exact thing. We don't even know the exact activities of our own body. Even our own body, we don't know what happens. It's like especially when you get sick, is that when you realize you don't know what's happening in your body. It's just like something is wrong. Something's wrong with my stomach. What's wrong with my stomach? Something is wrong. I'm passing loose motion. But what exactly is wrong? I don't know. You have to go to a doctor. It's like we had this experience in this ashram this winter. We were speculating, and everyone was falling sick. And we had to seek some expert advice to get rid of it. So, but this is the nature in Kali Yuga. So here's a question, Now, since Prabhupada is talking about the Mayavadis and this in the purport, why is it stated that the Vedanta Sutra cannot be understood by ordinary people? Just Mahaprabhu is stating this right over here. In fact, his guru states, Mahaprabhu's spiritual master Ishwara Puri says, Murkha tumi tomara nahika Vedanta adhikar. Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sar. You are a fool. You are not qualified to study Vedanta philosophy. And therefore you must always chant the holy names of Krishna. This is the essence of all mantras. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking the position of an ordinary conditioned soul and is therefore saying that he is not qualified. But rather he is actually telling these Mayavadi sannyasis that you are not qualified to read the Vedanta Sutra. But why? What is the qualification to understand Vedanta Sutra? Any thoughts?
Janma, you need to have like the right birth, you need to have the right qualification, all this stuff like carries on, from many lives. And then you come to the point of studying Vedanta, and also like you also have to read all the Vedas. Right? The Vedanta means like the end of the Vedas.
I want to hear. I want to hear if there are any other opinions before.
You have to hear from Bhaktivedanta.
You have to hear from
That's right.
Vedanta. Actually, that's the answer. There's a qualification does not come by birth. That's the point that Prabhupada is making. The principle of parampara system was strictly honored in the previous ages. So it's not. See, Prakashananda Saraswati, they had all the qualifications of birth. That was being followed in those days. It was being followed in the days of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Varnashram system was largely intact. So you cannot become a sannyasi if you were not born in a Brahmin family. And even to become a sannyasi, they definitely read, Upanishads and Vedas, and they were reading most of the time. It's also stated in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, by reading their hearts have become hard like a stone. That they are not able to relish the chanting of the holy name. So, the truth is you need to learn the Vedanta Sutra from a devotee, from a spiritual master, from Guru, one who comes in the parampara system. Not that one can go and approach the Vedanta Sutra by himself. And that's true for all types of spiritual knowledge. And therefore, those materialists who are addicted to experimental knowledge and the so-called scientific method cannot place their faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mantra. Because it's within their limited perception, it doesn't exist. They think, how I'm making so much effort. Whereas someone is chanting Hare Krishna, is just chanting Hare Krishna and he becomes self-realized. It's actually envy. It's envy that, I am doing so much and that fellow is not doing anything. And he's according to the scriptures, he's supposed to be very elevated. How is this possible? So, the actual qualification to understand the Vedanta Sutra is to hear it from a bona fide spiritual master. And Vedanta Sutra is that even after one, and then when does the spiritual master teach the Vedanta Sutra? He teaches the Vedanta Sutra by first purifying it. First you chant the Hare Krishna Mantra. This is the essence of all the Vedas. You chant the Hare Krishna Mantra and gradually everything, you will understand everything. In our limited sphere, now the Mayavadis, they say that everything is one. But when they say everything is one, they still don't accept it because they don't accept. If everything is one, then by chanting the holy name, I should get the same benefit. Then why do they look down on a person who is not reading Vedanta? That means they're differentiating right over there. They shouldn't be differentiating. There's no difference, right? Everything is the same. Then why do you differentiate? But this is the problem that in the current age, that even though these materialists, these Mayavadis cannot understand spiritual knowledge, they still try to do it, and in the process of trying to do so, they invent this philosophy that they cannot follow themselves. They invent this Mayavad philosophy which they cannot follow. So, and it's very inconceivable for them to think that the name and the object can be the same thing. It's very difficult for them to understand this. They think that the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are different. They think that Brahman, so therefore they say Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya. Although they say everything is one, they can't actually follow it. And so they see duality in every step. They see duality everywhere. And to see duality means that one is still conditioned by material nature. And Srila Prabhupada says that because they differentiate between the holy name of the Supreme Lord and the Lord Himself, they gradually glide down from their exalted position of Brahma Jnana. That why does this happen? Why does this aruhi krichena parampadam tata patanti ado nadrita yushmad angreha? Why does it happen that after attaining liberation, after attaining the impersonal effulgence, these impersonalists, after attaining that Brahma Jnana, after attaining Brahman realization, they fall down. Why is it that they fall down?
They don't accept the lotus feet.
Vimukta Marinas. They don't accept the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So what? So what if they don't accept the lotus feet of the spiritual
Because they'll find a vacuum. Because the nature of the soul is to have activity, and when you don't have any activity, you want to serve Krishna. You want to serve someone. That's the constitutional position of a living entity, to serve.
Right, exactly. So, it's because the living entity is a servant of Krishna. Only in the constitutional position of being a servant of Krishna can he be happy. And the living entity ultimately is Anandamaya Abhyasa, that's stated in the Vedanta Sutra. Anandamaya Abhyasa, that the living entity is full of bliss. And is not only full of bliss, and because it's full of bliss, it's bliss seeking. Krishna also seeks bliss. Therefore we seek bliss. So he is bliss seeking. Now when he seeks bliss, if he doesn't get it, then he becomes dissatisfied. And when he's dissatisfied, the seeking continues. So therefore, even in the position of Brahmagyan, one is relieved from material misery. But one has not attained spiritual happiness. And because one has not attained spiritual happiness, because of dissatisfaction, the living entity will fall down. Because the only other thing he knows... Interestingly, from the position of Brahmagyan, he's seeking activity. Why instead of seeking devotional activity does he fall down to the material world?
Because he doesn't there's no bhaktas to give him bhakti.
There is no bhaktas to give him bhakti.
He doesn't have the association.
He doesn't have knowledge of devotional service.
Yeah.
All right.
He's envious of Krishna.
But then why does he fall down to the material world?
He's envious of Krishna. He wants to perform some activity, so he can't go to the spiritual world. So the only way is down.
But those who are envious actually don't attain the actual position of impersonal liberation. They're still stuck here. Those who actually attain the position of impersonal liberation are just mostly concerned with Brahma Jyoti. But still, there's a risk of them falling down to the material world. They don't ascend. One reason is, this is a reason for sure, that because they don't have association of devotees. Another reason is because they're still stuck in the concept that they're the doer. And they still think I'm doing. So when you think I am doing, I means that you come into the material world. When you think of aham mameti, this is me, this is my activities, and this is mine, then you come into the material world. Because that is immediately duality from Krishna. It's Krishna's activities and our activities. But when we do devotional service, then our devotional service is merged with the activities of Krishna. We are helping Krishna's activities. We don't have actually any individual activity. Our activity is to make sure that Krishna's activity is going on. So the purpose is one. That's what we learned in the Guru Puja also, that Chittete Koriya Aikya, that our consciousness is merged with the desire of the spiritual master. So in that way, these Mayavadis, because they think that they are the doer, they fall down to this material world, and then they again have to go through this difficult process. And interestingly, the last verse of the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra, is Shabdat Nivirti, that through Shabda, through sound, one can get liberation. But they don't understand the purport of that to be the Mahamantra, to be the chanting of the holy names. They think Shabdat Nivirti means to hear the Vedanta Sutra and then one will get liberated. That was Shankaracharya's commentary on that. So I'll end the class here. Anyone who has any questions, comments?
You're making a point towards the end that they come down, to in general the Prabhupada says they come down and they engage in philosophic activities.
Yeah.
But if one is on the
oh yeah, there's both actually. Yeah.
But if if one is on that liberated stage, I guess it's understood, like that verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanama, Nusochina Kanjati, so there's no hankering, lamenting. So if they're Brahma realized, then they would understand that there's whatever, no happiness, no distress, or why would they, I don't understand why they would come down now. If that makes sense.
Because the nature of the conditioned soul is to be active, and there's no activity in the Brahma Jyoti.
Okay.
That it's our constitutional position to be active, to be doing something. We should be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And because, we are not engaged in activity, then the spirit soul will eventually become dissatisfied. There is no... Now again, Krishna speaking of the Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma is talking of devotees.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's because prasanna means happy. Na sochati na kankshati. So to prasannatma. But in the Brahma Jyoti, it's not happiness. It's relief from material misery. It's peace. It's real peace. It's a peacefulness condition, no activity. And that relief, it's like, when you're suffering a lot, the relief gives you some level of happiness, but it's not actually happiness.
Yeah.
The example that's sometimes given is like in Vedic society, they used to punish a person. They used to take them into the middle of a river and dump them. So they would take the criminal and then dunk him into the water and keep him there underwater until he almost suffocates and dies. And then they bring him back up. And then he breathes, and then he breathes like, a huge sigh of relief. And then they put him back in. And like this, they keep doing it. And that torture is worse than death. It's like, that person actually is better, I just die. He's not able to die, he's not able to live either. So, but when he's brought out of the water, it seems that relief that he gets is like the greatest pleasure he can ever experience at that time. So the conditioned soul, especially one who is little enlightened, he understands how much he's been suffering in this world. And he's so frustrated and vexed about it. And therefore the Brahma Jyoti it's a nice position in that sense. There's relief. But that relief doesn't give rise to joy, it doesn't give rise to happiness. So, yes.
So you were talking about studying Vedanta, things like that, and you were mentioning the previous verse ago when he's saying Murka something, my Guru Maharaj is stupid, I should just chant. Then the purport, Prabhupada saying, this is to be understood that a Vaishnava should be completely conversant with Vedanta philosophy.
Yes.
Yet he should not think that by studying Vedanta is all in all and therefore be unattached to the chanting of the holy name. And so this is like, how does this apply to us? Because for one, Prabhupada didn't ever directly translate any Vedanta commentary or anything like that.
Well, Prabhupada states also in that same purport, he says that one who has taken shelter of the holy name, which is identical with the Lord, does not have to study the Vedanta philosophy, for he has already completed all such studies. And that in Krishna the Bhagavad Gita says,
Vedanta Krit Veda.
Yeah, anyway, I forget the word before that, but anyway, so Sarvasya Chaham Vidi Sani Vishnu Mattasmriti Jnanam Apornam Cha Vedescha Sarve Rahameva Vedyam. Vedescha Sarve Rahameva Vedyam, that through all the study of Vedas, he is supposed to be known. Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham, that I am the compiler of the Vedanta and the divider of the Vedas. So he is the compiler of the Vedas and he wrote the Bhagavad Gita. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita. So, so why read the Vedanta? Now, why should we not read it? See, there's a reason given. It's not that we're being restricted from reading the Vedanta. It's just that our acharyas are saving us from so much trouble. That's it. It's not that, I'm being banned, I'm being barred from reading the Vedanta. Sometimes some devotees, they get really agitated and they're asked not to read some books. Because why? Because it's a common tendency even within our movement. We see, sometimes initially some devotee comes and then he starts picking up all sorts of books and starts reading them without consideration of where the knowledge is coming from. Why? Is because we're still infected with that disease. And I can learn. I am the doer. I am all knowledgeable. I can understand. I will make progress and I know what is good for me. But the very principle of devotional service, which is stated by Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, is that Yat Shreyasya Nishchitan Bruhitam Me Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam, that I am unable to decide what is Shreyas for me, what is long-term benefit. We're very good at praise. What gives me immediate comfort. This whole modern civilization is that, it's all about that. It's like, all modern amenities, they just give you immediate temporary satisfaction. There's no thought about what could be the later effects. Just like, they invented all these GMO products and all these things. Why? Because it looks good. At that point in time, it looks good. But then they don't think, what are the after effects? What are the effects after that? And think about that. In fact, it's interesting to know these scientists, since Prabhupada also speaks about these scientists in this purport, we can't claim these, we can't take these scientists as authority. Why? Because there are things in the past which they said is so crazy, which today you might even be amazed that they said these kind of things. Like what? There was once in the 1920s, there were a lot of advertisements saying how cigarette smoking is really good for you.
Yeah.
They were advertising as a great method to relieve stress
And cough.
and cough, and makes you look cool, and and now we know it's really bad. But these were the scientists and the leading the leading doctors of that day. They said this. So how can you believe this? So because these people, they're so addicted to their mental speculations, and they literally ruin human society with their mental speculations. And now they're advertising, marijuana is the amazing thing. There's no side effects. There's nothing. There's no ill effects to the health. It's like, you see, in Vedic tradition, it's just common sense that if you put something in your body that your body doesn't need it, it's bad for your body in some way or the other. Mm-hmm. It's just common sense. But then,
they're also finding now that the states that have legalized marijuana have higher car accidents, because actually it does affect you, and it's just like getting drunk when you drive. Maybe slightly less, but it's like...
Who is saying smoking is good, by the way? I didn't hear that. No.
They all say
there's all over.
No, it's about for medicinal use.
No, not medicinal, but even
recreation.
Like even recreation.
You just
it's
take
a
it,
great
it's not bad for
recreation
you.
drug. That you can have this drug as a recreation, and it's fantastic, and things like that.
It's not bad for you.
Nobody will tell you drive and smoke.
So these scientists, they do so. The point I was bringing up was that we still have this thing that I can do it, I can achieve it. But actually, we're supposed to receive. And if we receive the holy name, if we receive the essence of all the Vedic texts, which is, the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, then why go through this effort of reading the Vedanta Sutra? Because the Vedanta Sutra is a sutra. It's condensed. They're small, phrases. And so you have to decipher them. You have to do that. Why go through that? Why go through that? And you're going to come to this, you have to come to the same conclusion anyways. So, therefore it says, this Prabhupada writes, it says, taking advantage of these verses, there are some Sahajiyas who, taking everything very cheaply, consider themselves elevated Vaishnavas, but do not care even to touch the Vedanta Sutra or Vedanta philosophy. A real Vaishnava should study the Vedanta, but after studying, does not adopt the holy name. So that's what you stated. So the point is that what we are reading and what we are discussing right now is Vedanta. It's not the Sahajiyas, they don't even want to. There's a group of Sahajiyas, they don't even want to think about Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So they don't want to. They think only Krishna and Vrindavan, only Ras-līlā or something like that. So that's the type of Vaishnavas that Prabhupada is criticizing. Prabhupada has not written Vedanta commentaries, so there it is. In the Caitanya-caritāmṛta and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is Veda Vyasa's commentary, and Srila Prabhupada's commentary is another commentary on the commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. So we can understand, of course, and our acharyas, there is a Vedanta commentary by Baladev Vidyabhushana, but it is primarily just to convince others that we are also Vedantists. That we're not,
The Sri Vaishnavas,
We're not-
right? That's
because there's 6 schools of philosophy, and we belong to the 6th school. There's what is this?
Vedanta,
Karma Mimamsa, Yoga, and
Sankhya.
Sankhya. Yeah. So there are 6 systems of philosophy, and there's a Vedanta philosophy. So we belong to the Vedanta because the Vedanta section of philosophy, they give importance to the Vedanta and the conclusion of the Upanishads. So we belong to that. Vaisheshika. Yeah. Vaisheshika is the person. What is it? That's the name of the philosophy. Yes. I don't know. Sorry? Lokayatikas, yeah, something like that. So we belong to the Vedantists. So therefore there was an accusation that came in Baladev Vidyabhushan's time that, you guys call yourself Vedantists, you call yourself,
They're going to take
where is the
right
Vedanta
off.
commentary for your parampara? You call Brahma Madhva Gaudiya parampara. But parampara means that you should have a Vedanta commentary. So then Baladev Vidyabhushan wrote the Govinda Bhashya for our parampara. But it is just it's like how, Sanatan Goswami wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's primarily meant to convince, for instance, Hari Bhakti Vilas convinces Smartas that we also have rules and regulations and things like that. And similarly the Vedanta Sutra also. Yeah, we also have commentary on the Vedanta Sutra according to our, and therefore we are a bona fide parampara, because otherwise people will neglect us. But otherwise there's no need for reading the Vedanta Sutra.
To summarize in one sense, studying all Prabhupada's books is like the same as studying Vedanta.
It's better.
His name is Bhakti Vedanta.
Right.
That was like what it was given.
Right. As Prabhu said, we have to learn it from the Bhakti Vedantas.
I was interested, his sannyas guru gave that name to all his sannyas disciples because when Bhakti Santa gave him the order to study Vedanta and really know it, and so that's he's I passed it to Prabhupada, I guess.
And it's interesting, our Acharya's names, Bhakti Vinod means the joy of devotion, but there's no Bhakti Vinod without Bhakti Siddhanta. And Bhakti Siddhanta is not different from Bhakti Vedanta. It's the same.
I heard that they were even planning maybe to name Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta, but then they thought it was going to be too. They changed the name, I think.
I never heard of that.
I heard that.
Maybe.
So I'm looking for the exact verse number. In this chapter, Prabhupada is, he's saying, you see, the whole problem with the Mayavad philosophy is that they don't present the Sanskrit as it is. That the whole point of Mayavad philosophy is that they want to juggle the word.
Yeah, word jugglery.
Give their own imperfect definitions. So then, what they do is try to cover and put this here, this way, that way. That's why he said our Vaishnava philosophy should present the Sanskrit as it is. So since we have presented Bhagavad Gita as it is, we're trying to present the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada also writes, we also want to present the Vedanta Sutra as it is. So I'm just looking for that quote. I almost found it 1 minute. Anyway, it's not now. I'll show it to you guys later. But it's mad last week. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's there.
Prabhupada also wanted to actually. Prabhupada did have a desire to comment on different texts like different Puranas and the Upanishads, and the Mahabharata. But Prabhupada gave us the essence, and he asked his disciples to carry on, which they are doing. Our disciples of Srila Prabhupada are producing books, and hopefully, the Brahma Sutras are already out. Bhanu Maharaj already translated them and presented. But again, like we stated, Prabhupada has given everything in his books. Prabhupada said that simply by reading, in fact, Prabhupada even said, just simply by reading Krishna book, one can go back to God. Just one book. It's amazing. Just one book is enough.
Yeah.
So, and this you were stating about a point which You're stating that Prabhupada, you're finding a quote where Prabhupada says
In the same chapter, anyway, if I don't find it,
Vedanta
enough,
as it is.
I
Yeah,
feel that-
this word jugglery, I can give you a nice example of how Shankara, I don't know if I've already stated this before in the past. There is this verse, avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate maam abuddhayah parambhavam ajananto mamavyam anuttamam. So Krishna states that in the Bhagavad Gita, that avyaktam vyaktimapannam, that one who considers that the form came from the formless, manyate maam abuddhaya, he is considered by me to be without intelligence. Without intelligence. Parambhavam ajananta, he doesn't know my nature. That mamavyam anuttamam, that I am indestructible. That my form is indestructible. My nature is indestructible. So, now the Mayavadis, this is a tricky verse, because this is exactly the opposite of what they think it is, because they think that Krishna was formless and that Krishna took and appeared in a material form. So they switched it. Shankaracharya actually switched it to Vyaktam Avyaktam Apannam Manyate Mam Abuddhaya. That one who considers that the formless came from the form, he is considered by me to be brainless or without intelligence. How did Shankara do that? He pulled some obscure grammatical rule and logic by which somehow or the other, that which is stated, actually these are grammatical rules, that which is generally the first word leads to the second word, that it's a sequence. But in some obscure grammar rule, if one cannot, in some obscure grammar rule, one can switch it and say that the second word is what has to be given first precedence, and from that comes the meaning of the second one. And so that's how the logic works. Then our Vaishnava Acharyas, they come and say that there's another grammar rule which is a very important grammar rule, that you don't need to give these kind of interpretations when the clear meaning is apparent. When the clear meaning is not apparent, it's like, when do you need all these codes and rules? You need all these codes and rules when you need to decipher the meaning of something that is not very clear. Like, say there's some coded language, and you want to extract a password from a computer, and there's some encryption. Then you need. But if the document is right over there, then why do put an encryption or something on top of it and mess it up? It's not needed. You don't have to decrypt. So it's like that so that's what Adi Shankara does, and interestingly, that's what he states in his song also, Bhaja Govindam, that samprapte sannihite kali nahi rakshati dukrin tarane. Dukrin tarane means the ability, the one who is expert in grammatical logic. And it's hard for us to understand today in this day and age of Kali because of two reasons. One is that we're very less intelligent. Second is that this English language is not as advanced as Sanskrit is, and there's not so much grammatical nuances to play around. In fact, there was something like that in Shakespeare's time and things like that. Now the language is so degraded that people just have a few words in their vocabulary they keep spitting out whenever they curse. And that's practically their whole vocabulary is just filled with a few curse words, and they keep using that like 5 times in one sentence, or Yeah. It's difficult for us to understand. But during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time in Navadvip, they were doing this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is what they were expert at. They would take this and they pull this grammatical rules. You would put different interpretations. And who's that Kashmiri Pandit? Digvijay. So Keshav Kashmiri. So that famous incident is there. How just one word, he gives so many meanings, and he composes so many verses, and then on the Ganga, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and he says, "Stop! Wait! And then he explains. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first establishes his logic, then he defeats it, and then he defeats that by establishing it again. So this was how expert they were. It was, and it's very intoxicating. So the Mayavadis are actually stuck in that. Just that they've used that instead of discussing about something like about the Ganga or something, they discuss about Brahman. They discuss on the Vedanta Sutra. They do it on the Vedanta Sutra, they do it on the Upanishads, they do it on the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore it's ultimately in one sense because it's, and therefore they also have the qualification that one has to be a Brahmana, one has to be a sannyasi, all this, because otherwise you can't argue on that logical grammarian level. It requires a very high level of intelligence. So it's not a spiritual qualification, it's a material qualification to discuss grammar. It's not spiritual. So therefore it doesn't lead you to Krishna, it doesn't lead you to the lotus feet of Krishna because it's not spiritual, the process is not spiritual. Whereas we chant the holy names, it's like they struggle so hard, they go through so many grammatics, and then we sing the holy name on the street and some guy picks it up and then he becomes a devotee and he goes back home, back to Godhead. It's like crazy for them. And he didn't take a proper birth, what's his qualification? I went through so many years and years and years of education in the Gurukul, and I took sannyas, I'm following strict vow of celibacy. What did that guy do? I mean, what kind of celibacy did all of us follow? I'm saying Hare Krishna, It's so bad, but then and we're claiming ourselves to understand. It's really a big attack on their ego. Yeah.
In Kumbh Mela, Prabhupada was with his disciples, and he saw like a bunch of yogis performing great austerities and all. And then he said, "What's the point of all that austerities?" And he took a rasgulla and put it in his mouth. Just by taking this rasgulla, we're making more advanced. 300, 400 years of austerity just by taking it, let's still offer to Krishna.
I don't remember if I read this in a Prabhupada memory or something, but there's like one yogi who had raised his hand like this. Is this it's in the memories, or it's like in the Ādi-līlā? I think it's Ādi-līlā. I don't know. I'm not sure. So he's having this finger up like this, and he has been raising that arm for so long that the blood supply stopped, and so his nerves are kind of frozen or whatever. And it's like he can't move his arm anymore. It's just stuck like that. And he was such a big attraction at the Kumbh Mela because it was such an amazing. I mean, to raise your arm for that long to the extent that you've damaged it beyond repair. But then what is his spirituality? People go and worship him as a very spiritual person. What is this spirituality? So much difficulty for achieving what?
Mental strength to be able to do that.
Some mental satisfaction. So the same thing, Mayavadi, so much struggle for just some imperfect mental satisfaction. Some great austerity to relieve yourself of some miserable situation. But you don't gain happiness. You struggle so much. So the living entity is addicted to struggling, and the Mayavadis also are, and the scientists also struggle. Can you imagine how much it takes? PhD, double what is that? Double doctorate? Something like this. So many years. In medical school, you just have to keep studying. Like first MBBS, at least in India, it's called MBBS. The medical degree is like 5 years, and then you have to specialize, which is another 5 years, and then after that you have to become experienced. So then you work, and by the time the person's actually situated, like famous person, like he has his own clinic and things like that, he's 45. What's the point?
10 years.
What's the point? So much struggle. For what? And what does he get? He gets a lot of money, sure. He's very rich. If you're a doctor, you're very rich. You get a lot of money. Then what do you do with all that money? You may build a big house that you don't live in. You create so much facility for your wife and children who you don't spend time with. And then all your children just take and plunder your wealth. And then the wife also plunders. What's that? Again, that's also in the Bible. Rogues and thieves.
Man, I don't remember the fast.
So much effort. So much effort for nothing.
Use the facility to sleep somewhere.
So it's the nature of the condition. So even in many ways you can look at this in Krishna conscious life. Therefore, even those who are grihasthas, Don't over endeavor. Be satisfied.
Yeah.
Krishna says, in the Uddhava Gita, Krishna keeps stating one after the other, and then Uddhava says, if I'm not able to do that, then Krishna gives another solution. But if I'm not, in the end, Krishna says the final thing, not able to do anything, just be satisfied. At least remain satisfied. Because satisfaction, if we are not satisfied, then and we're always hankering, then there's no question of achieving spiritual advancement. And so the Mayavadis also, they're constantly trying to, they say they're not hankering, they're very peaceful, but they're not peaceful. But why are you debating over Vedanta philosophy so much? Why is the duality seen? Because you're always hankering. So this hankering, therefore, even in devotee society, we should be careful that we should remain satisfied. We constantly think we're the doer, in our services, and then we're affected by, some element of Mayavad. Mayavad is the philosophy of Maya. We're all affected by Maya. Maya gives us philosophy. So many things to read and so many information. Unless we keep filling our ears with the holy name and Krishna Nam and Krishna Katha. What is it? Gaura Nam, Gaura Dham, Gaura Kam. So unless we do that, we'll be filled with. But otherwise, Maya is going to give us Maya Kam, Maya Dham, Maya. What is that? Maya Nam.
Maya Nam, she has many names.
She has many names. She gives us many names. She gives us our girlfriends' names. You have Susie, you have Rosie, you have all these other Mayas. And then you're chanting Susie and Rosie, and instead of chanting Krishna's name, and then she gives you. Crying. How perfect is Krishna conscious philosophy? It's so natural. Bhakti is so natural. It's so full of common sense that it just misses us. Like it's so practical and simple that we miss it. Because we're so complicated. That's why we're in the materials. It's full of complications. Every one of us, have come through so much. But by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're trying to become simple, getting untangled from our material. Otherwise, if at least personally, if I think about it in my mind, and how many things my mind throws up every day is just amazing. Yeah. Any other questions?
In the second chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, the purpose, Prabhupada writes that the only reward of the Mayavadis is the labor they take.
It's a labor, yeah. Shrama eva hi kevalam.
Yeah, that's the one there.
Shrama eva hi kevalam.
The only thing they get from all that austerity is the austerity.
Is the austerity.
Okay.
What's that? How's that verse come?
Dharma-swanushita
Vishwaksena kathasuyat notpadayati yatiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Dharma-swanushita pumsam. That one who follows dharma. But what is that dharma? Savai pumsam paro dharma yato bhaktir adoksaje.
But
they don't follow that. Dharma-swanushita pumsam Vishwaksena kathasuyat. Kathasuyat. Hearing the nectarian topics of Vishwaksena. Krishna. Vishwaksena kathasuyat. Notpadayet yatiratim. That one who does not have rati for this. That one who does not have attraction. Rati. Notpadayet yatiratim. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Engages on. In another sense, until we come to the platform of actual rati in devotional service, as long as we're attracted to all these material things, we also experience a lot of times do so much effort for nothing, and we think it's Krishna conscious. And there's so much effort done in Shrama. And I realized, Shrama eva hi kevalam. It was just a lot of effort.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada gives the example of the efforts of the Mayavadis and the austerities and the effort of the Sahajas and the crying and all.
Right.
There's a boat and there's an anchor, and you guys are planning on going from one village to another, and one family wants to go on the boat from one village to another, and then the boatman starts rowing, and it's they wake up in the morning and they're still at the same place, and the man is like, I was rowing all night, and the reason is the anchor was still there in the water, so the boat didn't move. So the only thing the boatman got is that.
And they become proud of it by those efforts. Well, what happens is there's Shrama eva hi kevalam, that they get only result is only their austerity, but they also get a lot of pride, which is the problem actually. They become really proud that I did so much, I've done so much, But it's not about what you did, it's about what you achieved. So, anyways, I think we'll end there then. Alright, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vacha kalpatarubhyasya